I'm here because I am a roaring lion crying out righteousness. There's a constitutional statement of the 14th Amendment, the 13th, 14th Amendment, 13th and the 14th Amendment of the Constitution were written shortly after the during the Lincoln presidency and after the presidency, mainly surrounding the former slaves, Hamites that they were, declaring that no person should be held as a slave in the 13th Amendment of the Constitution, that all people are free of slavery. And then the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, which is what I want to focus on, was written for the purpose of now making all slaves citizens. Now, the reason why the 14th Amendment, I studied it, not because I'm a genius or constitutional scholar, but I studied the 14th Amendment of the Constitution because going back several years ago, I put Barack Hussein, the long-legged Mac Daddy, the pole dancer, on trial inasmuch as that he was not a natural-born citizen of the United States, that he was born in Kenya. His mother flew over there to give birth to him in Kenya, and yet he lied and covered it up, and the world covered it up, and everybody just let it go. Nobody wanted, I mean, people are still fighting to today, to this very day, saying he was born in America, but everybody knows he wasn't. He was born in Kenya. So the 14th Amendment is the thing that I studied when I put the long-legged Mac Daddy on trial. You have to be natural born. But the 14th Amendment was brought about after slavery had ended, that all people born in America were then American citizens, because even though the slaves had been freed by the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, they still weren't citizens. Check it out. They weren't citizens. So then they had to come back later on and put together an amendment to the Constitution that said that anyone who was born in America is a citizen, and therefore we get the term natural born, which Obama was not naturally born. He was born naturally in Kenya. And then, of course, the 15th Amendment was a rare move of American diplomacy, which gave black men, Hamites they are, the right to vote. So the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment to the Constitution, but what I want to focus on now is the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, because Segment C of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution says, however, anybody who's led an insurrection or taken an oath to defend the Constitution of America but has led an insurrection against America cannot serve and it cannot hold any national federal office. So a lot of people saying that Trump can't because he led an insurrection. I'm going to ask the engineer to bring up video number 1, and we'll hear some talk about that. And I'll leave my mic open.
New Hampshire, the state with the first Republican primary of the 2024 election season, is quickly becoming a hotbed for the debate over whether Donald Trump is constitutionally banned from ever serving as president again under the 14th Amendment. This week, a Republican candidate for president filed a lawsuit to disqualify Donald Trump from New Hampshire's primary there. And a former Trump-endorsed Senate candidate made headlines by calling for the Secretary of State to take action. Now, the New York Times is reporting that the activist group Free Speech for the People, quote, sent a letter to the Secretaries of State in New Hampshire, as well as Florida, New Mexico, Ohio, and Wisconsin, urging them to bar Trump from the ballot under the 14th Amendment. The New York Times adds this, quote, the New Hampshire Republican Party said this week that it would challenge any effort to remove Trump or any other candidates who have met requirements from the ballot. What happens here could lead to a legal showdown that goes all the way to the United States Supreme Court. Joining our conversation, legal director for Free Speech for People, the group that sent the letter to those 5 secretaries of state. Ron Fine is here. Dahlia Lithwick is back with us as well. Ron, we've heard from Judge Ludig, who kind of legally put this out there by locking arms with progressive law professor Lawrence Tribe. We've heard from a Secretary of State on our program that they're looking at this along with other secretaries of state and other battleground states. Just take me inside your effort and your understanding of how the Constitution bars Donald Trump from being on the ballot.
Thanks, Nicole. Well, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment says that anyone who took an oath to support the Constitution and then engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the United States is forever barred from public office unless and until 2/3 of both houses of Congress vote to grant that person amnesty. January 6th was a violent insurrection that not only took over the U.S. Capitol, nearly assassinated the vice president and several congressional leaders, but disrupted the peaceful transfer of power for the first time in our nation's history. That's farther than the Confederacy ever got. And Trump engaged in it by inciting it, facilitating it, fomenting it, and goading the insurrectionists on while it happened. And that's why he is disqualified under the Constitution.
People who, I think, intuit the accuracy and the soundness of what you're saying, I think represent a whole lot of Democrats, a whole lot of independents, and others who don't support Donald Trump. People who support Donald Trump being there either deny the truth, what we saw with all of our eyes and ears, or are the ones who will come up with legal arguments why this is not the appropriate application of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. What do you say to them?
Well, some people are arguing that Donald Trump isn't disqualified under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. But there's also a lot of people who are basically arguing that the 14th Amendment shouldn't be in the Constitution at all. But it is. We already had that debate about whether somebody who broke their oath and engaged in insurrection is disqualified from public office. We settled that debate in 1866 when we added the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, and then in 1868 when 3/4 of the states ratified it. So just like if Barack Obama showed up with papers to file for running for election as president, he would be unqualified. He's ineligible because he's already served 2 terms. Just like if somebody who's 12 years old filed papers, they're not old enough. Or somebody who wasn't born in the United States, they're not a natural born citizen. These are provisions of the Constitution that define eligibility. And frankly, Section 3 of the 14th Amendment applying to people who broke their oath and engaged in insurrection is actually in many ways more important than any of those other qualifications.
I'm going to bring this back on the next time we get an opportunity to broadcast the Manning Report, perhaps tomorrow. But I want to drop something on you and the members of the ATLAH War Missionary Church, and who have stood with me and supported me through some very, very trying times. What the 14th Amendment of the Constitution says right now is that Donald Trump cannot be president. And I don't know how America's going to react to that. Some people may just say, let's not have that argument. Let's just let him run, because it's going to cause all kind of havoc. Because really, the Constitution bars him from running for the reasons you just heard, of him taking an oath and then leading an insurrection against the Constitution or against the government. And he doesn't have to be convicted. But if he was participating in it or gave comfort, aid and comfort to those who did participate, he's ineligible. And so Trump can't be president. Now, he may very well, people may just say, let's let it go. But 2 very distinguished law persons, law professor Lawrence Tribe, who taught at Harvard for 50 years, says he shouldn't. And very conservative Judge Luttig has also stated that he shouldn't because of the amendment to the Constitution. The irony here that I want to drop, Sister Bennett, is that Obama was barred from being president because of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. Now, everybody, ATLAH members, listen to this very carefully, because there may be more revelations coming forward. Obama was barred from running for president or being president because of the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. But the media and the Democrats and others found a way to say he was born in Honolulu, even lied, but we've never seen an actual Hawaiian birth certificate. But his grandmother, his African grandmother, said he was born in Kenya. And so the battle I fought. Really, Obama was never the president. He was never the president. Now it appears, while Trump is now being barred for the same thing that Obama was barred for, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution. And here's what I want to connect. Obama's the son of Satan. Tribulation Trump is a servant of Satan. There were some tumultuous years when I stood and said Obama wasn't president, And though he was put in that office, it was done so illegally, which disqualified it, which in the sense of the Constitution, if you ask the Constitution to stand up as a person, the Constitution as an individual, ask the Constitution, is Obama the president of the United States of America? They would say no. It would say no. Then who was? Hillary Clinton was the president, because Obama could not be the president. Now, the 14th Amendment and that's because Obama was not natural born. Now we're discovering that because of Trump's participation in the January 6th insurrection, the Constitution says he can't be president. Now, what's going to happen? They're going to do the same thing they did with Obama. They're going to put him in anyway, even though it's absolutely clear that he should not be. They're going to put him in for sake of for peace in the valley, if you so-called. They're going to do it. They're not going to. The states, I don't think. Maybe they will. Let me just not adamantly say that they will not. But the sense is now they're going to do the same thing with Trump in the 14th Amendment that they did with Obama with the 14th Amendment, knowing that he could not, should not, that if the Constitution was a human being, it would say, if you ask the Constitution, was Obama ever president of the United States of America, it would say no. Esther Bennett. And looking now at the Constitution and Segment 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution, it says Trump cannot be the president of the United States. Those two similarities. And Trump, of course, defeated Hillary Clinton as well. So there's a lot here to unpack going forward. I wanted to be able to make that analogy.